Welcome to another show. Today, we're going to look at the strange life and death of the master of the macabre, Edgar Allan Poe. According to Wikipedia, Edgar Allan Poe, born on January 19, 1809 and passed away on October 7, 1849, was an American writer, poet, author, editor, and literary critic who is best known for his poetry and short stories, particularly his tales of mystery and the macabre. He is widely regarded as a central figure of Romanticism and Gothic fiction in the United States, and of American literature. Poe was one of the country's earliest practitioners of the short story, and is considered the inventor of the detective fiction genre, as well as a significant contributor to the emerging genre of science fiction. He is the first well-known American writer to earn a living through writing alone, resulting in a financially difficult life and career. Poe was the son of the English-born actress Elizabeth Arnold Poe and David Poe, Jr., an actor from Baltimore. After his mother died in Richmond, Virginia, in 1811, he was taken into the home of John Allan, a Richmond merchant, and of his childless wife.
What's your name?
My name is Edgar Poe.
See how he answers?
He was later taken to Scotland and England, where he was given a classical education that was continued in Richmond. For 11 months in 1826, he attended the University of Virginia, but his gambling losses at the university so incensed his guardian that he refused to let him continue, and Poe returned to Richmond to find his sweetheart, Sarah Elmira Royster, engaged. He went to Boston, where in 1827 he published a pamphlet of youthful Byronic poems, Tamerlane, and other poems. Poverty forced him to join the army under the name of Edgar A. Perry, but, on the death of Poe's foster mother, John Allan purchased his release from the army and helped him get an appointment to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Before going, Poe published a new volume at Baltimore, Al Aroff, Tamerlane, and Minor Poems in 1829. He successfully sought expulsion from the academy, where he was absent from all drills and classes for a week. He proceeded to New York City and brought out a volume of poems, containing several masterpieces, some showing the influence of John Keats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He then returned to Baltimore, where he began to write stories. In 1833, his message found in a bottle won $50 from a Baltimore weekly, and by 1835 he was in Richmond as editor of the Southern Literary Messenger. There he made a name as a critical reviewer and, pulling a Jerry Lee Lewis, married his young cousin Virginia Clem, who was only 13. Poe seems to have been an affectionate husband and son-in-law. Poe was dismissed from his job in Richmond, apparently for drinking, and went to New York City. Drinking was, in fact, to be the bane of his life. To talk well in a large company he needed a slight stimulant, but a glass of sherry might start him on a spree. And, although he rarely succumbed to intoxication, he was often seen in public when he did. This gave rise to the conjecture that Poe was a drug addict, but according to medical testimony he had a brain lesion. While in New York City in 1838 he published a long prose narrative, the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, combining, as so often in his tales, much factual material with the wildest fancies. It is considered one inspiration of Herman Melville's Moby Dick. In 1839, he became co-editor of Burton's Gentleman's Magazine in Philadelphia. There, a contract for a monthly feature stimulated him to write William Wilson and The Fall of the House of Usher, stories of supernatural horror. The latter contains a study of an erotic now known to have been an acquaintance of Poe, not Poe himself. Later in 1839, Poe's Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque appeared, dated 1840. He resigned from Burton's about June 1840, but returned in 1841 to edit its successor, Graham's Ladies and Gentleman's Magazine, in which he printed The Murders in the Rue Morgue, the first detective story.
3 murders in the Rue Morgue, Mr. Charron. All 3 victims mutilated with vitro. I would say the pattern is established.
In 1843, as The Gold Bug won a prize of $100 from the Philadelphia Dollar newspaper, which gave him great publicity. In 1844, he returned to New York, wrote The Balloon Hoax for the Sun, and became sub-editor of the New York Mirror under N.P. Willis, thereafter a lifelong friend. In the New York Mirror of January 29, 1845, appeared, from advanced sheets of the American Review, his most famous poem, The Raven, which gave him national fame at once.
Upon a midnight dreary,
while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore.
While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. as of someone gently rapping.
Poe then became editor of the Broadway Journal, a short-lived weekly, in which he republished most of his short stories, in 1845. During this last year, the now-forgotten poet Francis Sargent Locke Osgood pursued Poe. Virginia did not object, but Fanny's indiscreet writings about her literary love caused great scandal. One evening in January 1842, Virginia showed the first signs of consumption, or tuberculosis, while singing and playing the piano, which Poe described as breaking a blood vessel in her throat. She only partially recovered, and Poe began to drink more heavily under the stress of her illness. He left Graham's and attempted to find a new position, for a time angling for a government post. He returned to New York, where he worked briefly at the Evening Mirror before becoming editor of the Broadway Journal, and later its owner. There Poe alienated himself from other writers by publicly accusing Henry Wadsworth Longfellow of plagiarism, though Longfellow never responded. His The Raven and other poems and a selection of his tales came out in 1845. Highlights of his writing career include:
I have cared for her tenderly and well. You will find her almost as beautiful as when you last saw her. She died.
The Black Cat. The story is a study of the psychology of guilt, which also features questions of sanity versus insanity, is Poe's strongest warning against the dangers of alcoholism. The Cask of Amontillado. It's about a man taking fatal revenge on a friend who, he believes, has insulted him. The Fall of the House of Usher includes themes of madness, family, isolation, and metaphysical identities. The Murders in the Rue Morgue. It has been described as the first modern detective story. Poe referred to it as one of his tales of ratiocination. The Pit and the Pendulum. The story is about the torments endured by a prisoner of the Spanish Inquisition, though Poe skews historical facts. The Telltale Heart. The Telltale Heart is often considered a classic of the Gothic fiction genre and is one of Poe's best-known short stories. Poe's only novel was The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. The work relates the tale of the young Arthur Gordon Pym, who stows away aboard a whaling ship called the Grampus. Various adventures and misadventures befall Pym, including shipwreck, mutiny, and cannibalism. This work influenced Moby Dick. On October 3, 1849, Poe was found semi-conscious in Baltimore, in great distress, and in need of immediate assistance, according to Joseph W. Walker, who found him. He was taken to the Washington Medical College, where he died on Sunday, October 7, 1849, at 5 o'clock in the morning. Poe was not coherent long enough to explain how he came to be in his dire condition and why he was wearing clothes that were not his own. He is said to have repeatedly called out the name Reynolds on the night before his death, though it is unclear to whom he was referring. His attending physician said that Poe's final words were, "Lord help my poor soul." All of the relevant medical records have been lost, including Poe's death certificate. Newspapers at the time reported Poe's death as congestion of the brain or cerebral inflammation, common euphemisms for death from disreputable causes such as alcoholism. The actual cause of death remains a mystery. Speculation has included delirium tremens, heart disease, epilepsy, syphilis, meningeal inflammation, cholera, carbon monoxide poisoning, and rabies. An eerie postscript to his strange death is the equally eerie Poe toaster. Between 1949 and 2009, a bottle of cognac and 3 roses were left at Poe's original grave marker every January 19th by an unknown visitor affectionately referred to as the Poe toaster. Sam Porpora was a historian at the Westminster Church in Baltimore, where Poe is buried. He claimed on August 15, 2007, that he had started the tradition in 1949. Porpora said that the tradition began in order to raise money and enhance the profile of the church. His story has not been confirmed, and some details which he gave to the press are factually inaccurate, similar to many of Poe's works. The Poe toaster's last appearance was on January 19, 2009, the day of Poe's bicentennial. That was our show for today. What did you think? Are you a fan of the works of Edgar Allan Poe? Did you know about the strange life he led, his mysterious death? Let me know what you think in the comments section. And, while you're at it, I'd be honored if you subscribe to my channel. Click the bell to stay informed. Also, check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise in the comments section. And, until next time, this is Axelin for Kevin Given saying live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.